In more recent times, it has seemed as if an end might be put to all these controversies, and the claims of metaphysics receive final judgments through certain physiology of the human understanding, that of the celebrated Locke. So to me, what he's talking about for physiology is empiricism. And then there's an interesting line here, a few lines down. Metaphysics has accordingly lapsed back into the ancient time-worn dogmatism. And then he talks about the indifferentism and indifferentists. And now, after all methods, so it is believed, have been tried and found wanting, the prevailing mood is that of wariness and complete indifferentism, the mother of all in all sciences, of chaos and night. But happily in this case, the source, or at least the prelude, of their approaching reform and restoration. He doesn't like these indifferentists. He has things to say about them. Indeed, these pretended indifferentists, however they may try to disguise themselves by substituting a popular tone for the language of the schools, inevitably fall back, insofar as they think at all, into those very metaphysical assertions which they profess greatly to despise. I don't know, I find this absolutely fascinating. What do you think about the critique of pure reason?
I mean, I haven't read it in a while. What did you have, you haven't read Locke, right?
It's like a treatise on second.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is about his thoughts, his like...
This is his thoughts on empiricism,
yeah,
basically,
exactly,
right?
Yeah. Locke is, of course, famous for the tabula rasa notion, but also, like, the notion of, like, primary and secondary qualities, that we have direct perceptions of primary qualities, which give us conceptions of secondary qualities or something like that.
What are the primary qualities?
Primary qualities are, like, if I remember correctly, primary qualities are, like, things like color and immediate, like, things that are immediately
right.
available to us, and this gives us the ability to think about the structure behind those colors. You know what I mean? Like, that allows us to do, but if we were stuck with primary qualities, we wouldn't really be able to do science, right? We just have a bunch of sense impressions. But we wouldn't be able to come up with, like, scientific hypotheses about, like, what's happening.
So this leads to empiricism?
Yeah.
In Locke's opinion?
Yeah. It allows for productive empiricism, yeah.
Okay. I was reading up ahead in the preface to the second edition. We shall be rendering a service to reason should we succeed in discovering the path upon which it can securely travel, even if, as a result of doing so, much of that is compromised in our original aims, adopted without reflection, may have to be abandoned as fruitless. And then following up on your point, the true method, he's talking about Thales over here, the true method, so he found, was not to inspect what he discerned, either in the figure or in the bare concept of it, and form this, as it were, to read off its properties, but to bring out what was necessarily implied in the concepts that he had himself formed a priori, and had put into the figure, and in the construction by which he presented it to himself. So this is different from empiricism. So what is Kant's pushing back with empiricism against empiricism?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
How is Kant pushing back on Locke's empiricism? He's saying that we're tabula rasa basically, and we use a priori.
Yeah. So
No, but that's what Locke said. We're tabula rasa, right?
Yeah, but we don't use a priori as a result. A priori is the opposite of tabula rasa.
Okay.
Roughly. I mean, so basically that, more in this part of the tradition it is, more or less.
But why do you think it's important for him to lay out all these definitions of the synthetic process, analytical, the dialectic? Why do you think it's important for him to do all that? Because there's a priori, a posteriori, there's synthetic, analytic. So synthetic combines things that aren't inherently obvious. Analytic is something that is defined in and of itself.
Yes.
Like a bachelor implies that someone's unmarried.
So then synthetic a priori is something that isn't there in virtue of the meanings of the individual terms together, but is something different. Kant actually thought that 7 plus 4 equals or whatever, 7 equals 5 equals 12 was synthetic a priori. It was synthetic a priori
because it's not.
Somehow it
can't just be an individual a priori.
Hume thought it was analytic a priori.
Could I see my paper? I read about Kant in there.
Okay. But I may have to get back soon because I got to do some
Okay.
unpacking. So when do you get your bed bugs fixed?
I don't know.
You should do it soon, then.
Yeah.
It's not good. You need to do it as fast as you can.
Trust me.
Do you need a loan at some point to do it?
Here. This is my chart that I made for Kant. Relation and modality. Kant explained quantity, quality, unity, reality, plurality, negation, totality, limitation. Let's see if I can organize this for you. I don't think I can. It doesn't start there, but that's the chart.
Yeah. I remember this chart.
Yeah. I'd be interested in your thoughts on my Kantian interpretation.
Did he use the word community?
Well, I mean, the chart kind of exists here in the middle.
Okay.
It looks like that. It doesn't look... I changed the chart up a bit.
Okay. Does it have the word community in it?
Yeah, it does.
Interesting.
It's in this table of categories.
Okay.
The same function which gives unity to the various representations in a judgment also gives unity to the mere synthesis of various representations in an intuition. And this unity, in its most general expression, we entitle the pure concept of the understanding. The same understanding through the same operations by which in concepts by means of analytical unity it produced the logical form of a judgment, and also introduces a transcendental content into its representations by means of the synthetic unity of the manifold in intuition in general. On this account, we are entitled to call these representations pure concepts of the understanding and to regard them as applying a priori to objects, a conclusion which general logic is not in a position to establish.
Interesting.
So he's sort of following Aristotle in these categories that I have laid out there. But that chart that I made is different from Kant's chart, which Kant kind of looks like this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you ask Katarina if she's hungover?
All right.
Just curious. Or was hungover?